my god. Start the timer. Post. Good. What is... What is this? Subscribe to earn drops. I'm in my own chat. This is... Okay. I don't know why my OBS chat widget is telling me to subscribe to my own Twitch channel, but you guys should. Hello, Gotron. Thank you. I'm glad to be... It's as weird as it sounds. Oops, wrong ROM. As weird as it sounds, I am glad to be back in Clown World. Into the maelstrom of politics and discourse and whatever the hell else. Because it means I get to talk about stuff again, and I get to stream again. Let's continue. I kind of forgot where I was. Okay, I've beaten the 3 legendary birds. And I'm now back in town. What was I doing? It was like... Were the Mankeys here or something? What kind of jobs do I have lined up? Lapis Cave, okay. Alright, good. I have a couple things on my mind, but I'm gonna actually count on chat for the most part to bring up like the recent politics that's been happening, because I mean, I've been following them for 2 weeks. I haven't been out of the loop for 2 weeks, but so much shit happens every day that I can't remember what all would be lined up. Also, I need to check something. I'm level 28. And, okay, so I have 3 attacking moves. Cannot imagine what it's like to be someone that's not plugged in. I can't either, to be perfectly honest. Okay, so I don't have any money. I guess I'm just gonna... store some... Well, no. I don't think I actually want to store much of anything. Maybe this peach berry I can store. What's up, 1v3? Welcome back. And, it's been a little bit too long for my taste. What's going on here? Oh, right. The jobs limit is 8 in this, so I can only have 8 jobs at a time. So that's the bulletin board, and this is my jobs list. I'm gonna... 1 facade TM wanted. Okay, so I'm gonna assume that you can find that on the way. How you doing now? I'm doing... I'm doing okay. Shit has been turned pretty upside down. Since I was last here. Oh, Giga Drain? I kind of want the Giga Drain TM. No, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. What even do I start with? Those characters are so lucky that in that game to have a walkable town. That's gonna be me in a little while. In just a couple of weeks, I'm gonna be moving to a walkable town that will not be named because I don't intend to dox myself. For all the feds watching. Okay. I guess I'll just go to Mount Freeze. Okay. Ice just breaks down your door. Yeah, I mean, given the direction that things have been going, it seems like that's maybe fixing to happen. I mean, it already happened. Shit, okay, this reminds me of something. It already happened to some people. Here, hold on. Ice arrests kids. Where's the recent thing here? Yeah, Newsweek. Ice has been in Chicago, I think. There we go. For a little while, they in some capacity followed through with their plans to like invade Chicago with ICE forces. Let's take a look at Newsweek. ICE agents drag naked children out of homes in Chicago raid, according to neighbors. This is the kind of shit that's been happening. In the pre-dawn hours of September 30th, federal agencies coordinated a large-scale immigration enforcement action targeting a 5-story apartment building. They raided an apartment and, you know, zip-tied kids and dragged them out of the apartment. Like, stuff was everywhere. You see people's birth certificates and papers thrown all over. No shoes, the kids didn't have shirts or no pants on. They just treated us like we were nothing. Immigration arrests are expected to continue in Chicago. That's great. Heard one story where a police officer was getting mad that ICE was taking all the workers. Yeah, there's definitely been some friction between ICE and local police. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. But there has also been like undoubtedly been a fair few instances where ICE has like or the police in an area have like willingly cooperated with ICE. I almost like don't even know what kind of analysis I can offer that I haven't already, because ICE agents are, I mean, I sound like a broken record even saying that, but let's just run through it. ICE agents are cartoonishly evil. ICE was created in the early 2000s just to be the Gestapo, basically. The Bush administration decided that the INS, the Immigration and Naturalization Services, was not Hitlerite enough, and so subsequently got rid of it and created Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which took a much more well, let's just, ain't no two ways about it. They took a much more unconstitutional and human rights averse approach to handling immigration matters. You know? Dodging Piper. Dodging pipe meme? What? Yeah, I'm gonna be real, I kind of hate Pineco when it uses protect and then self-destruct. That's kind of broken in this game. I think they balanced it later. Yeah, because he used protect. Protect actually, if it succeeds and you get the protect status in this game, for 3 whole turns you are protected from all attacks. Why did I keep going? The stairs were right there. Whatever. Also, one thing I appreciate about this game is that the Pokemon actually have as much health as they're supposed to when they join your team. I've been playing Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX, and the health in that game is so bonkers. Enemy Pokemon always have like anywhere from 2 to 4 times as much health as they actually do. You know, like if you recruit a Pokemon, they'll have 60 health, but they won't faint when you're fighting them until you've made them lose 200 health. I don't know why they thought that was good balance. It is not. Yeah, it's literally the meme of like when the boss joins your team as a playable character and they're just dog water, you know? All right, have some of these. Oh, I didn't mean to press that. Angles, their name is Angles. Yes. Um, mission objectives. Okay, 8, 9, 10, something, 13, and 15. All right. But yeah, what I was saying, like, ICE was explicitly created to be a Hitlerite enforcement agency for immigration. Um, and I mean that's all they've been doing since 2003, the 22-ish years that they've been in operation, right? Their job has been like harassing, arresting, deporting immigrants. And now they are with the advances of the far right in recent years, they are the new favorite tool of the Trump administration to effectively be an all-purpose goon squad, you know, because that's what they were created to do. So there's a lot less of any sort of procedural or administrative barrier of any kind that would prevent them from just doing exactly what the administration tells them to do. You know, like with the FBI and with federal marshals as well, there there's a chain of there's a couple things. There's a chain of command, there's rules and laws and whatever. Uh like that sort of prevent such an instant takeover and use of force to just violate whatever laws they feel like, you know? They're a lot more procedurally guarded. The FBI and the uh the marshals and some other police like entities in government have more procedural guardrails, not that completely prevent them from doing Hitlerite shit. Need I remind people, the FBI is monitoring online chatter, they are reading your DMs, and they are it looks like they're going to target left-wing groups increasingly, um, which is potentially in some ways more dangerous than what ICE is doing because the entire weight of the bureaucracy will be coming down on top of them, but they wouldn't necessarily be the types to be going out and harassing immigrant families in their homes in the way that ICE would do it. ICE is living embodiment of that one Peter Griffin meme with the color palette. Yeah, basically. That's just what they were created to do, so that's what they do. I feel like, yeah, okay. I should be exploring each floor more thoroughly. Oh, gummy. Guess I could eat this. Effectively, like, because the court system is still full of like procedurally minded judges and other, you know, judicial operatives and lawyers and things like that, none of this is going to, like, most of this is going to be thrown out in court, undoubtedly. You know, like, we've seen even Reagan appointed judges have been like, you are literally Hitler, like writing as much in their briefings and stuff, and like saying, no, you can't do that, you know, when ICE does whatever, you know, when ICE abducts random people from the streets, right? I'm glad the system works mentality is unpopular. Yeah, because it doesn't, the system does not work. It is crumbling under its own weight. But it's like, because of how obsessed ICE is with vice signaling, and how obsessed the administration is with like basically farming clips for Instagram, the system is starting to be at odds with itself in some kind of goofy ways. The ICE Pokemon lawsuit? What? I did not hear about this. Secret power. Gonna have to leave that apple there. Oh, no, never mind. The US government posted video of ICE making arrests with the Indigo League opening song. That is exactly characteristic of what I'm describing. It's like they don't care about anything. They hate you. They hate brown people. But most of all, what they want to do is just farm Instagram clips for other people that are just as racist as them. Because the entire politics of the far right is just owning the libs. I mean, shit, we've seen that here. This is another thing that happened when I was out. We've seen the farm industry crisis has been heating up in the United States. You know, nobody's buying soybeans from America anymore because we've destroyed all of our trade relationships. And so, you know, China and well, no, not China. China buys soybeans. I don't think maybe they do grow them. Whatever. There are other countries like Brazil and Argentina, which we bailed out, by the way. We bailed out Argentina recently to the tune of $20 billion, are filling that gap. And like, the farmers in America knew this would happen. They just voted for Trump to make the libs mad and to like hurt minorities. You know, like, if I had a fucking dollar for every time a right-winger was interviewed and was like, oh yeah, I recognize that literally everything Trump has done has hurt me specifically, but I voted for him because I agreed with his stance on immigration, and I'd vote for him again. They did this 3 times, by the way. 3 times. The 2016 election, the 2020 election, and the 2024 election. They knew what they were in for. Because the politics of the right is just like, let's make the libs mad by killing everybody, including ourselves. And they're lying to your face. Yeah, they're just... What was I saying? Oh, yeah. That's that ties back, I think, into what I was saying about ICE and why they do raids like this. Whether or not they know that like America depends on immigrant labor, they don't actually care. You could convince them that America depends on immigrant labor. In fact, a lot of the farmers are keenly aware that they are dependent on immigrant labor to work the fields. They don't care. Because if you had this hypothetical situation where you had to explain it to them for the first time, assuming one of them didn't know, they would have the same opinion before and after you explained it to them, because they didn't reason into the position that they're in. They're not approaching politics from a perspective of like earnestly wanting the world to be better. They're approaching it from an emotional perspective, earnest or not. They're approaching it from an emotional perspective where they are driven by pathos and want to see their enemies suffer. So you just have to paint the right enemy for them. And you could paint like, I mean, we've seen like visible evidence of this over the past several years. You could paint the like laborious lifeblood of the country as the enemy, and they would still go for it because it's an emotional narrative. You know? You just gotta give them somebody better to hate. You know? Oh, hello, Magby. A little out of place. But yeah, basically, the decline of America is just to own the libs. No, I will keep going. Oops. Find facade. Okay, I need to be on the lookout for a facade TM. Republicans are basically Anakin Skywalker. Yeah. You know what? Yes, I think that's. I've been gorging myself on some Geetsleys. Shoutouts to Geetsly. I actually want to talk at length about Geetsly and the kind of Star Wars channel that is in a moment. But it's relevant to this because if you've seen their great video, by the way, analyzing Anakin Skywalker as a character, they're driven entirely by interpersonal emotional relationships, many of which will be quite toxic. Okay, there's the facade TM. I'll swap this. Right? But they don't like actually care or know enough to care or like know about politics as a set of like conditions that changes and economic circumstances that have to be addressed and studied to maximize for positive outcomes for like extremely large numbers of people. To them, politics, like the extent to which they engage with the world is like, I don't know, whether or not they like their neighbor, I guess. And they imagine a hypothetical liberal neighbor that they've been taught to parasocially identify through Fox News or Twitter. And they want that person to suffer. And every left-leaning person in the country, to them, is analogous to that person. So they just want their enemies to suffer. And they, contrary to Anakin Skywalker, they don't actually care if the people they do care about in a positive sense prosper. You know? They are the worst traits of Anakin Skywalker, with none of the willingness to act on behalf of people close to them. In fact, many right-wingers are perfectly willing to alienate people in their own circles of friends and family if they, for whatever reason, become part of a faction that they've decided, like, that they've been parasocially taught to despise, you know? And it's important to understand as well that the association with the association that they draw between certain groups, it's not at all based on actions or like anything associated with outcomes or broader beliefs or belief systems, right? Like, the reason that I hate conservatives and the reason that conservatives hate me are entirely different. I hate conservatives because of the actions that they do politically as a bloc and the outcomes that result from those actions. Interpersonally, I don't know, that some of them could be functional human beings that I maybe wouldn't mind talking to at like a social function, right? The reason that I hate conservatives is a thing that could theoretically be subject to change. It is not an immutable characteristic of being. The reason that conservatives hate people of an opposing political bloc is by virtue of like immutable characteristics. They hate people for bearing the word liberal or the letter D next to their name, or more commonly, they hate people for being brown, for having a different skin color, like, or for being queer. Like, Damn, that's crazy. Do you want me to just, like, not find men sexy anymore? Like, what the fuck, you know, what do you want from me? You know? Does that make sense? Basically, what I'm saying, what I'm taking a very long route to say, is that Anakin Skywalker and real-world conservatives have in common that their brain is too small to understand politics. And too small to care as well. Okay, so it wasn't 11, the 11th floor. It must be either 12 or 14, maybe? In a sense, Republicans want 40s politics back from the dead? Yeah, basically. Yeah, all that was technically analysis for, I mean, all that was, like, tangentially related to the ICE raids in Chicago that ended up arresting small children. Because in the mind of conservatives, like, what have those small children done? Nothing. But they don't care because, like, I don't know, they're an enemy to Trump or something like that. You know, so they deserve to be arrested and deported. Like, you can tell them that, like, these kids are Americans and they won't care. But I guess now with that said, I can talk a little bit about Geatsleys. Like I wanted to. Ah, lava invaders. Not a thing that I will use, probably. No, wait, actually, the 40s politics thing is apt. Before I even get to that, the 40s politics thing is apt because the 1940s is when, was both the heyday and the decline of the New Deal, coalition. Yeah, I'm sure they're probably doing that to meet those arrest quotas. Again, for, like, to put it on a number sheet somewhere so that it'll look good for somebody, or so it's like, I don't know, again, like Insta TikTok clip farming, basically. The New Deal coalition actually broke apart for the same politico-psychological reasons that people voted Trump in 2016, 2020, and 2024. Because the New Deal and all of the social programs, social safety measures, and, like, social democratic elements of it objectively benefited everybody in the country, right? They were good things. You know, the Public Works Administration, Social Security, fucking, what was it? At the FDIC and all that stuff. All of that was, like, objectively beneficial to society. But because it was beneficial to everybody, that meant it also was beneficial to black people. And conservatives didn't like that. The New Deal coalition fell apart because the New Deal meant that, like, black people got to enjoy the New Deal too. They actually just wanted a whites-only New Deal. You know, they wanted all the goodies for them and none for the for black Americans and stuff like that. You know? I'm actually gonna start swapping these. Well, no, maybe not. They could get away with it. They would want to genocide some of them. Oh yeah, I mean, that's kind of how politics works, is that, like, the most reactionary elements of society will do whatever heinous shit that they can socially get away with. They just can't necessarily get away with that. Like we've seen the consequence of what happens when a state can get away with literally anything, and there's a massive amount of racial and ethnic animus. You get Israel, you get genocide. If the same pattern of persecution against political minorities existed in the United States, and I mean the same, not just similar with America going from slavery to apartheid to now apartheid light, you know, I mean actually like state facilitated and assisted like demonization with all available media of an ethnic minority, you would have genocidal attitudes that are like, that would be normalized. Like that's how that works. Find facade. I mean, I found the facade TM. I have it in my inventory. Do I just... I guess I just hang on to it. But yeah, as the New Deal coalition fell apart in the 1940s because people were racist and didn't want black people to have good things, so they undercut those good things for everybody. So now we have farmers and other conservatives like alternatively denying it's an issue or pretending to care about like the economic crisis that is increasingly looming over the United States, the farm crisis, etc., etc. It's the same shit. They would have voted for Trump again. They would have done this all over again just because they don't like minorities. And that's like, that is fundamentally an attitude that cannot be reasoned with because it is by definition an unreasonable attitude and set of political convictions. Yeah, they would do it again with a smile on their face and they'd pretend to care again. You know? Okay, so 15th floor is the last floor. Bet you they want to do it on infinite repeat. I mean, yeah, probably. Right? That's like a matter of what people can get away with. The reason that as one of the biggest reasons that civil rights advanced in this country the way they did is not just because of the passage of the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act in the 60s, but also because it became legitimately like socially unacceptable to be racist. That's why the country started to genuinely get less racist over time, you know? Because if you were racist, you now, like, you could be socially ostracized, you know? Like, it's not like all the racists died when the Voting Rights and Civil Rights Acts were passed. No, they just had to shut up gradually over time, you know? So now I will leave. Liberals think it was like, yes, sir, I understand being racist is bad now. It was a little bit like that, just over a longer stretch of time. You know, like, as these movements gained traction and it was clear that civil rights movements had allies in the halls of power, both local, state, and federal, even if it didn't, like, completely capture politics, the normalization of civil rights in a socio-political context, the normalization of black equality meant that people kind of had to shut the fuck up and stop saying the N-word so much. You know? And what right-wingers want is to roll that back. You know? By socially normalizing racism. By, you know, clip farming. I mean, like, honestly, no, yeah, of course, like, many liberals, will misunderstand the issue and whatever. There are people that, you know, just don't think about it that much and think that, like, oh, you know, like snap of the fingers, whatever. It's pretty much a 50-50 nowadays, at least, if someone was joking or just actually racist. Yeah, and that's part of the cycle of how racism has been renormalized. At least not to the point of like saying the N-word necessarily, but the sort of the post-truth internet era and like basically irony posting, nihilistic irony posting where your actual beliefs are completely unreadable, is like has contributed to racism being normalized because there's a plausible deniability that you're just joking. And that doesn't mean that it's like not okay to make a racist joke. It should be funny. You know, the joke shouldn't just be haha black people, right? But like, I don't know. You need to ask a historian, but I think I'm reaching for a phenomenon that contributed to racism kind of going away in America, at least partially. Sort of a decline in racist sentiment that Republicans are trying to, well, not just Republicans, the far right as a whole block, because they understand that in order to achieve the political objective of making society racist again, or making society more racist again, you have to have like people in the halls of power. You have to have, capture over like social culture and whatever. The far right is basically trying to reverse engineer the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s in order to do it backwards. To start from the position where a lot of civil rights goals have been at the very least partially achieved. There are protections in the law for racial and sexual minorities, and what they're trying to do is basically reverse course. But they're trying to reverse course in the same way that civil rights advanced. Are you going to watch the Five Nights at Freddy's movie when it comes out? No. Almost definitely not. Secret power. Okay. I'm getting so many gummies from this. That's pretty cool. Anyway, now I want to talk about Eat Sleaze a little bit. I'm not sure how many other creators exist in this niche. To my knowledge, it might actually just be Geet Sleaze. But there's like there's a type, again, it might just be Geet Sleaze, there's a type of Star Wars content creator who, it's very interesting because a lot of his videos basically just seem to be academic pieces or like analysis pieces that draw heavily on historical materialist analysis but take place in the Star Wars universe. You know? I find it super interesting, particularly because of like how, I guess, this is credited as much to the Star Wars universe as to Geet Sleaze themselves. The Star Wars universe mirrors so closely the political and socioeconomic logic of the world we live in. So it's kind of like, yeah, you have the Jedi and you have the Sith and you have all that shit, but you're sort of just plastering that over like real world politics extrapolated to an interplanetary galactic scale, you know? But with no social media? Yeah, kind of. it is actually interesting. You can tell, like, God, so many. The ghost of Marx is even influencing the Star Wars universe. Um, because there's a lot of events in Star Wars that are so intricately written to be dependent on certain material conditions. Of, like, oh, this trade relationship with this planet and this planet means that there are business interests here that have influence in the government that leads to the government doing this and this, and the extrapolation of that, like all these business interests everywhere else. And wealth necessarily leans on a liberal democracy very heavily, which means over encumbered bureaucracy and institutional decay, and a government that only seems to act when business interests are at stake, and that sort of thing. Um, I mean, shit, I even made a soy face at one point in real life because Geetsley's like name dropped material conditions as a concept, even though that like that's all they've been talking about is the material conditions of the Star Wars world and how it led to like periodic rises and falls of like the Jedi Order and different political factions and whatever. It is super interesting. Motion in Pokemon Square? Oh boy. Oh, they're back. Hopefully it's not another rumor. It's not. Oh, jeez. Is it me or do their models look different? Well, these are sprites. So also, yeah, these are custom sprites for them being like laid out on the ground, knocked out or something. This dungeon is gonna be rough if it's what I think it is. Um, well, I think the one thing I actually wanted to say about Eatsley's that was really nice is that like it seems like evidence to support the point that like if you're really interested in something, if you have an interest, it tends to push you to the left because it makes you want to learn more about that thing. Particularly like with Star Wars that has its origins in that has its origins in um res- protests against the Vietnam War, and like the Empire is America and the rebels are the Viet Cong and that shit. Like George Lucas has said as much in interviews. Um, yeah, like reality has a left wing bias. So if you learn about reality, even if it's through the proxy of a hobby, you get pushed to the left. And I think it's like it's really nice to see that on YouTube with Star Wars. Um, because I think Star Wars is so much more interesting when you engage with it from a rational perspective that would lead you to, that might lead you eventually to some ideas that either touch upon things that Marx talked about or that are overtly Marxian or whatever. You get into the academic weeds. I think that stuff makes Star Wars a lot more interesting, the world of Star Wars. than if you were one of these right-wing channels. And you can kind of tell which Star Wars channels are what. Because like the right-wing channels will assign so much moral weight to the canon. It's almost like the difference between treating Star Wars as a subject, like a very interesting world and subject of study, versus treating it like the Bible, effectively, you know? Lurking anymore? See you later. Later, have a good one. It's fascinating how a neo-Nazi's death overshadowed basically a Russian drone invasion of Poland on news sources like the BBC. I heard about it a little bit. It was just like Russia trying to poke at like Poland and other countries and whatever. You know, like Russia can barely handle Ukraine. There's no way that they could seriously involve themselves in a military conflict with, God, even just like the Baltic states and Norway. Like just adding them to the mix would be too much for Russia. You know? But and like if Article 5 happens and like that's it, Russia is just, what they're doing is they're doing a little bit of trolling, because by flying drones over like Polish airspace or whatever, stuff that's like, you know, designed to spook you but is ultimately relatively inconsequential, they stoke political paranoia and political fear of a Russian invasion. That's not going to happen because Russia already tried that and it fucking failed. What they're basically trying to do is they're trying to poke at like NATO countries enough to get them to rearm and invest more and more resources into their military-industrial complex so that they will descend into fascism, and that way NATO is no longer an oppositional force to Russia because they sort of went down their own reactionary path. Does that make sense? Effectively, that's the way that Russia tries to ideologically influence countries that it is hostile to, whereas with countries that it is friendly to, it doesn't really need to do that. You know? Because Russia isn't just like fascist, they're also kind of an exporter of fascist ideology. Many of the parties in Europe, the far-right parties in Europe, have ties to Russia, to the Kremlin, right? It's a pretty known quantity that a lot of European far-right parties are connected to Russia, to the Kremlin. So those parties are galvanized by, you know, paranoia, fear of outsiders and immigrants and whatever, but they are also close enough to the neoconservative parties in their support for the military-industrial complex, in wanting to rearm. I mean, we've seen how, you know, the Tories and Reform have been talking about the military in the UK lately. Russia basically wants to spook European countries into doing that, into beefing up their military again and putting more and more resources into that so that they can accelerate the decay of European social democracies and turn them into allies of Russia, you know? Or maybe not allies of Russia, but like, basically, they don't like liberal democracies, you know? And Russia knows that it doesn't have the military resources or the military capacity to do a ground invasion of Europe. That would be insane. You know, the ground invasion of Ukraine, with the knowledge that Putin was operating off of back in 2022, was a more or less politically informed decision that was kind of in line with how Russia had been doing politics in the past. You know, they had, you know, Russia in the 2000s had invaded Chechnya, they had invaded Georgia, and they had invaded, in the 2010s, Ukraine. This was just an extension, sort of an extension of that, and they thought it would work. But because Ukraine had been cultivating economic and political relationships with Western countries, it didn't, because Western countries were willing to supply aid to Ukraine, at least enough to stall the battlefield. You know? Does that make sense? So yeah, I think it's generally correct that Russia wants to sort of poke at NATO countries without getting into a war, because the consequences of them poking relatively lightly, you know, with a few drones flying over every now and again, violating airspace, that makes Western countries way more paranoid and thus way more likely to vote in increasingly right-wing parties that would be more and more amenable to Russia and their interests. You know, and even if not directly to Russian interests, then certainly to Russian oligarch interests, you know? Because right-wing parties all capitulate to capital, and capital is international. They can't afford a war without nukes against NATO and other Western powers. Yeah, like, nukes or no, Russia would lose in a conventional ground war with anybody more than just Ukraine. Like, the, you know, the battlefield in Ukraine has even stalled for Russia. They're gaining some ground, like, extremely slowly, but, like, yeah. You get what I'm saying. Okay. Take that pink gummy. I will store 1,850. Assuming you heard about a Russian spy getting caught with corn cans loaded with explosives, you would assume wrong because I didn't hear about that. I need to, what country was this in? I need to, I'm gonna probably look at some of that. Okay. Great Canyon and something else. I don't remember what else. Blaze map freeze, or forest. Job list. Okay. I need to make sure that my team is I'm gonna visit Absol. I feel like if I was gonna take anybody on an adventure with me, it would be Absol. Basically, Russian military spies were planning on terrorist attacks with explosive corn in Poland, Lithuania, and Denmark. Interesting. I feel like that sort of facilitates the same pattern I was talking about, where, like, the destabilization foments paranoia and distrust. Oh, via flying drones. Okay, well, there you go. Yeah, so it's part of that same pattern that I was talking about. Do terror attacks to create distrust and paranoia, and, you know, with that, countries start electing more and more far-right governments. You know, the far-right gains ground, and the far-right is friendly with Russia. You know? All right. What else I want to do? Oh, yeah. Okay. There's one other thing that I wanted to do this stream. God, Charlie Kirk is barely even relevant enough anymore for me to consider making a video about him, which is really funny. But that's not what I was thinking of doing for content this stream. No, I was thinking of something else that I saw recently. Okay, I'll get things ready when I'm about to like head out for the dungeon. So I'll save the game and I'll save state. Okay, save completed. And then what I wanted to look at was, let's get this as a new tab going, and we will look for crystal ball. There we go. Debate. Where is this? I wonder if, maybe, do I need to look for it on YouTube? Yeah, I think I need to go to YouTube specifically to search for this. Okay. Crystal ball. I mean, we're in full interview, I guess. I'm not seeing the full video. God dang it. Where is it? Oh, I hate YouTube now. Genuinely having trouble finding this. There was a debate with between Tommy Lauren or Tommy Lauren, washed up as conservative influencer commentator, and Crystal Ball from such shows as Crystal, Kyle and Friends, as well as I think she was on, was it Breaking Points with Sagar? Let me see if okay. This is a video of the Vanguard guys from the Vanguard podcast reacting. It doesn't seem like there's a link to the original interview, so I don't think I'll use that one, but I don't know. I don't remember if you said this already, but Russia flying drones into West Europe is also how they may be distracting Western politics from Ukraine. I don't think I said that directly, but sort of, yeah, like, that's kind of what they want to do, is like, you know, it's one thing for Europe to be militarily supplying Ukraine, but I think Russia wants them to have a more direct military-industrial buildup for themselves, because that's, like, facilitates a decline of liberal democracy, which would be better for business interests. And so I think they're trying to, like, they may be trying to provide a justification for military buildup that doesn't necessarily involve giving those arms to the Ukrainian military or whatever to fight Russia on the front line there. So yeah, I think that is a component part of it for sure. Where is this video? Oh man. Full interview. The internet is so cooked. That's, okay, that's also Vanguard. It's not the original thing. No, nothing. Truly nothing. Here, hold on. Web? Wait a minute. Here, hold on. Tommy Lauren, Liberal Tuesday, Crystal Ball. Where is it? I think I remember that, like, the name of this was, oh, Liberal Tuesday, haha, where I have liberals on my show. And this was like the one where she had Crystal Ball on. I can't, you know what? You know what just occurred to me? It's not out of the realm of possibility that Tommy Lauren tried to scrub that interview from the internet because of how bad she got blown out. Here, hold on. Actually, if I go to the Majority Reports YouTube channel, here, hold on. I know the Majority Report did a video segment on this, and I intentionally cut my viewing of that short because I kind of wanted to react to it on stream. Let me see if I can find it. Here Crystal we on? Go. Yes, the nice, satisfyingly gravelly voice of Sam Cedar, of course. Where is... Okay. Oh, so it was that one... Okay. So it was... Tommy Lauren wishes Crystal Ball good luck with socialism. Tommy Lauren is fearless. That's the YouTube channel. Okay, so it was that video. I thought that was like a clips channel. Here, hold on. Crystal Ball. Tommy Lauren. Hold on. Wishes Crystal Ball good luck with socials. Okay.
I don't know if you're a Mamdani. I don't know if you're a Mom.
Oh my god! You have to see this. Okay, before we start, I need to highlight something. Wait, what the group? Okay. Oh, that's the other tab. Okay. We're getting some React content. I know that my chat always loves to have some React content available. So here we go. There we go. So the title of this video is Tommy Lauren wishes Crystal Ball good luck with socialism. From, I guess this is just the name of Tommy Lauren's channel. I would have thought this was like a random clips channel. Look at this like to dislike ratio, bro. 1.4k likes, 6.2k dislikes. And this is on her channel. This is home court advantage for her. Like, with her audience. Now, granted, a lot of the dislikes and comments that all say that, like, Tommy Lauren got dogged in this interview, are coming from the perspective of progressives who came in to, like, hate bomb the video or whatever. But that is still a useful metric to see a breakdown like this, because you have to perform pretty fucking poorly in a conversation for your video to be this vulnerable to people to come and be like, wow, you fucking sucked. You know, if you're like a major political figure, you know, like me, some no-name content creator, nobody watches me. So like if 1,000 Nazis see my video and just decide to hate bomb it, as has happened before, that's not necessarily indicative of the content of the video, right? It's just indicative that 1,000 losers had nothing better to do with their time. But these are actually like big name people. I mean, Tommy Lauren is pretty washed up, but like notorious individuals from the left and the right politically, respectively. Anyways, hopefully I don't get copyright nuked for this. Let's have a listen to how badly Tommy Lauren gets her shit rocked in a rhetorical sense.
Mamdani fan or not.
Oh, hold on. Give me back to the beginning. There we go.
I don't know if you're a Mamdani fan or not, but you are a big fan of Mamdani?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you are? Okay. So he wants to provide $65 million for gender-affirming care.
I mean, Tommy, I think everyone should get healthcare. So yes, I think trans people should get healthcare as well.
I hope that...
Nice. Okay, so we have a little bit of a highlight reel to start. Certified Mamdani fan, Mamdani enjoyer even. We're all eating good tonight. Here, let me minimize that. There we go.
You guys stick with that, and I hope that Mamdani is your poster child, and I hope that you run on it. I'm not going to give you any feedback because I too hope that that is the direction that you go. If you...
She thinks she's being coy, but she's not. There's a kind of there's a thinly veiled sting that she doesn't even do a good job of like veiling. It's like, oh yeah, I hope you guys go with Mamdani, because conservatives think that Mamdani would be like an easy target for them. But in truth, Mamdani is basically the new most popular politician on the left. Everybody loves him. The Democrats hate him, the Republicans hate him, people generally love him because he's willing to offer a compelling narrative of how New York, and by extension, like America, if you take what he's trying to do in New York, you apply it maybe to another city, it's generally like a narrative about how we should make the city better. You know? It's not this apathetic, technocratic bullshit that Democrats usually offer. And she thinks that it's like, oh yeah, haha, it'd be easy for us to beat Mamdani, so I hope you guys go with Mamdani. After Mamdani whooped Cuomo's ass in the primary.
If you review his policy proposals, you'll see this is not some like dyed-in-the-wool ideologue.
Best of luck with the Democrat socialist endeavor in America.
Great, thank you.
That's been unleashed against us.
So when we say Donald Trump is a fascist, fascism, a huge component of fascism is uniting racism, bigotry, a form of racism.
This isn't the conversation. What's going on? No, it's the whole fucking fascist rhetoric and definitions. Oh, okay, this is like the obligatory well poisoning. I'm gonna skip this. I think. Yeah, how long is this? This is 3. Okay, I don't need to listen to 3 extra minutes of yet another fascist Barbie talking at me. So I'm going to get to the part where Crystal Ball shows up because she's great.
Crystal Ball. Crystal, it's so great to have you. I want to have the discussion. I know that you tweet a lot about it, and I'm very interested to hear if you think President Trump is a fascist, and if you think that I, by definition, as a conservative, am also a fascist.
I don't think everyone who supports President Trump is a fascist.
I actually, before we even continue with that, sorry, I have to pause and look at something really quick. I'm about to go into Magma Cavern. I need to know how many floors I'm dealing with before I start navigating this. Magma Cavern 26? What does that mean? There's a little asterisk there. Okay. Generation 3. 1 to 23. Wait, is it 24 in Generation 3? Where's the floors? Okay, so it's 24 floors, and then a midway point, and then like one more floor. Okay. I understand what I'm getting into a little bit better now.
I do think that President Trump is a fascist, though. And I'll give you a perfect example, Tommy. It's kind of an awkward day for you to give this spiel because Trump is speaking to all the generals today in Quantico. And he just said that he's going to use the military against the enemy within, which is part and parcel of what he's been doing with deploying the National Guard in cities across the country. So when you ask about definition of fascism, the president really sort of gave his own definition of fascism today. I know.
Yeah, true. You know, me when I'm definitely not a fascist, using military force to crack down on political opposition, after my campaign platform was largely defined by vitriolic opposition to immigration as a concept. You know, not beating the fascist allegations, you know, the very, very, shall we say, abundant use of state violence through the military against you know, political opposition.
You want to agree with that, but
yeah,
let me just make a broader point here.
Yeah, I want to dive into.
Well, let me just make a broader point here because, you know, I think as someone who came from a side that did a lot of tone policing and, by the way, called out people who were policing rhetoric and doing the whole cancel culture thing, I would really caution you from going down this path, especially as someone who, you know, is a commentator, uses your words for a living. I know in the past I did a little bit of research. You called people who were enforcing mask protocols Nazis. President Trump has, of course, used his language.
I think this is the moment where you can pretty reasonably see that Tommy Lauren is fucked in this interview, because Crystal is the type of person to actually do their homework before going on an interview like this, which is honestly, her and Kyle Kalinske are super good at that, and I like am not as good at that comparatively. Like, I don't know, they're really smart and they know what homework to do for this. If you're like studying for a debate against modern conservatives, that's like kind of overkill. But at the same time, it's also a good indication that it's like, oh yeah, I know all of your positions on such and such. I'm gonna dig up some shit from fucking 3 months ago that you said and ask if you still believe this. And whatever else, you know? Which, if you did actually believe in something, you would either be able to own up to the fact that you believe something, or be like, no, you know what, I don't believe that anymore. I've actually changed my mind, you know? But the right wing is composed overwhelmingly of dishonest pieces of shit, so they can't do either of those. So asking them, yeah, do you believe such and such, is like honestly one of the biggest gotchas that you can, well, gotcha. I mean, like, it puts conservatives in that gotcha position, but it's like for a normal person, asking what they believe would be like normal. So anyways, this is just me getting a little bit giddy because Crystal Ball's about to lay her out rhetorically. By the way, I don't think there's like, I don't know how much we're gonna learn from this. The value in this is basically, I want to participate in Tommy Lauren's humiliation ritual from having done this conversation and it having gone so poorly that most major progressive like online news channels and shows were talking about it. We're talking about how, like, you know, oh yeah, she got pretty showed up on her own show by Crystal Ball
in quite aggressive ways, including calling Kamala Harris and others fascist, radical leftists, communists, et cetera, et cetera. Do I think that that was inciting violence against Kamala Harris? Do I think you were inciting violence against people who were enforcing mask mandates? No. So I think we have to really maintain this commitment to First Amendment free speech, even in the face of incredible crackdowns from this administration in ways that are truly extraordinary and quite dystopian.
I would love to hear about the First Amendment crackdowns from this administration and what you would classify those as. But I want to go back to President Trump this morning. And again,
wait, okay.
I know that...
Hold on.
I would love to hear...
I feel like that's... God, sorry. Sometimes my memory is like that of a goldfish, but I feel like this was a pivot.
Commitment to First Amendment free speech, even in the face of incredible crackdowns from this administration in ways that are truly extraordinary and quite dystopian.
I would love to hear about the First Amendment crackdowns from this administration and what you would classify those as. But I want to go back to President Trump this morning, and again,
oh
I
no,
know
okay. This is they were just talking about his speech to the generals, right?
that the liberals, I know that you all love it when he says something and it's like, oh my God, this is the definition. He's going to use the military against us. Well, I would argue it's well within his rights to use the National Guard in DC, and DC is a pretty great place right now by all accounts because of his use of the National.
Okay. Arguing that a president is within their rights to do something does not in any way refute the argument that it is fascistic to do said thing. Right? The fascist takeover of Germany was in many ways quite legalistic. The Nazis broke a lot of laws. They also followed a lot of laws in taking over power in the government. In fact, some of the most heinous shit that they did on their rise to power, and also like in the construction of the death camps and whatever, a lot of that was legal. They were within their rights according to German law to do that. There's a lot of stuff, as much as Trump is like violating the Constitution, which is bad from like a stability perspective. You know, usually if you have a legal document that's supposed to be a guiding force in a political entity, it's not good if you very frequently disregard that, because it kind of speaks to a complete lack of cohesion in politics. But at the same time, if you follow the law in a specific way to achieve a fascistic objective, that's still fascism. You're just doing it within the bounds of the law. The argument here was not such and such is illegal, even though I'm positive that well, actually, I've read the Constitution, so I know that there are like certain military deployment into the states for certain periods of time could violate the Quartering Act. And in fact, using the military to crack down on free speech, even though this shit happens all the time, even in liberal democracies, that is a violation of your right to free expression, because people having broken no law are being arrested based on the expression of a political belief, you know? Whether it be the cops or the military doing that, you know? So she's not even smart enough to understand the argument being made here, because the conservatives are so law and order brained that it's like bad equals illegal and illegal equals bad. Legitimately, it's like the kind of brain fart that you would accuse a caricature of a liberal for engaging in. But you remember, fascists are just liberals, but worse.
National Guard there to keep people safe, mostly black and brown people, I would add. But also, when you are deploying troops...
Wow, woke fascism? You see, actually, Sweaty, we had to deploy the military to DC because of all the crime that was affecting black and brown communities and folks of color or something.
Protect federal agents and federal buildings, you're also well within your right. That's not authoritarian. It's if you want to have Antifa lighting the street.
Again, something being within your rights as a government or as a executive in said government does not mean said thing is not authoritarian. You know? Legal does not necessarily equal good. Illegal does not necessarily equal bad. Not always. Again, brain failure.
Streets on fire and terrorizing people in these cities. President Trump is going to protect his agents, and he's going to protect federal assets. So I don't know what part of that you think is authoritarian. To me, it's just, if you guys want to...
the part where you use the military to militarily occupy a city that already has a governing structure, and that didn't fucking ask for that. In fact, even if a city did ask for that, I would consider it pretty authoritarian to have the military occupying a city domestically. You know? And if I'm being particularly anarchist-brained, the existence of militaries as a concept is a pretty authoritarian thing, because what do militaries exist to do? Exert lethal force against political opponents, foreign or domestic. that's pretty authoritarian. That's kind of bad, I would say. But you know, especially it's especially visibly like there's nothing else that could even be happening. Like I don't feel like I need to address the factual claim that DC's not like overridden by crime, because conservatives lie as easily as they breathe, and that's something that's so easily searchable on the internet. Like crime statistics for DC, it's like it's not actually that bad over there. You'd have you'd have a much higher crime rate in any given American small town than in a city as large as DC. That's kind of how cities work.
Play stupid games, we're going to make sure that we have our federal assets protected. Would you rather they just be out there and be attacked by Molotov cocktails and bottles and...
Again, making up shit that, like, isn't happening. It's... I can tell that Crystal, like, isn't gonna fall for this. There used to be a time when a lot more people on the left would actually buy into this framing. Of like, oh, well, you're saying they should just be pelleted with bottles and Molotovs? Which, first of all, the answer is yes. If that were happening, the answer would be yes. If you've seen the protests that go on in France, you know, light work, no reaction. But then also, like, nobody believes that that's happening.
Things being lit on fire around them, buildings being lit on fire. I mean, is that your preferred course?
Well, first of all, I would say I don't think you should believe everything that you see on Fox News, Tommy, because that is not the reality in any of these cities. And I spend quite a bit of time in Washington, D.C. Second of all, you know, local law enforcement. Oh, that's true.
Crystal and Kyle, I think, are based either in Virginia or somewhere around there. They're relatively close to the DC area, so they can, you know, they can go through there. And of course, because conservatives like think that data is Jewish or whatever, or like data is made by woke black women or something like that, they don't believe in the scientific process as a concept for gathering information. So they're much more susceptible to arguments from personal experience. And I mean, if you've gone through DC, you know, like there's actually like, not only is there not really any like rampant crime happening or whatever. I've been to DC. It's kind of like really spread out, and there's not like that much happening generally. I mean, there's people out and about because DC is the capital, and there's museums and stuff. But you know, again, American city, cars, etc., etc. People not walking around that much. Something. You get what I'm saying, you know. Basically, conservatives are stupid and don't understand data and reject data as a concept, so arguments from personal experience work. And so, since Crystal has personal experience of being in DC, like, relatively often compared to, I imagine, most Americans, she can very easily say, like, that hasn't been my experience. DC's, like, it's DC. There's not really much crime there. I've been there.
Exists for a reason. And there's a reason why we have a separation between civilian local law enforcement and the military. The military is trained to go after enemies. Do you see the American people as the enemy? Because that's the way that President Trump is framing this. He is saying
in DC,
the enemy within is the American people.
In the National Guard in DC, have they gone after you? Have they militarized?
Have they gone after me specifically?
Or have they gone after anybody? Can you give me an example of where the National Guard in DC has hurt an American civilian or has been militarized against an American citizen? Because they've been there for what now, a couple months?
So now it's shifted from this is authoritarian. I guess in her mind, authoritarianism is only when the military is actively arresting you and, like, I don't know, putting you in Guantanamo Bay or something. So now we've shifted from, oh, it's not illegal to do this. It's not authoritarian to do this because it's like, it's legal or whatever, to now, yeah, well, has the National Guard, like, actually assaulted anybody the way that the cops would or something like that? And again, that wasn't the argument.
I haven't seen any example of where the National Guard has overstepped their boundaries or authority or done anything that would qualify as like this militarized authoritarian rule. I haven't seen it. Maybe you have.
Yeah, so I think there's a fair point that you're making there, which is that because we have the Posse Comitatus Act, you cannot actually engage in civilian law enforcement. A lot of what they've done is to back up ICE agents, so we can have a whole separate conversation about the aggressive abuses there and the way that American people feel that that has gone way too far in a way that has been aggressively violent. A lot of what they have done in DC is frankly like a waste of taxpayer dollars picking up trash and just standing around. However,
that's true. We saw this with the protests in LA earlier in the year as well. Protests against, like, I think it was a protest outside of an ICE facility to which the National Guard was deployed, and the National Guard not having the authority to do much and also having the training to not shoot people or arrest them on site, and also, like, again, not having the authority to do that even if they wanted to, just sort of stood around and did fuck all and cost millions upon millions of dollars, by the way. Moving the National Guard around is expensive because they are a part of the military, which means military equipment and military transport and that sort of stuff, which means doing business with a million different military contractors. So every time they mobilize the National Guard to be somewhere, it's just like, well, there's tens or hundreds of millions of dollars down the drain again for no fucking reason, Like, legit, the National Guard had so little to do in DC that there's some pretty humorous clips of them, like, wearing the orange and yellow vests and picking up trash in the parks. Because it's like, the fuck else are they gonna do? They can't arrest people. They can't, basically, the National Guard is not permitted by law to, and the command structure is not willing to engage in the kinds of abuses of people's rights that the administration wants them to, and thus would be sending them places to do that. But they can't do that and also won't do that. So they just kind of sit on their thumbs. And, pick up trash, I guess. Which could theoretically make this the least efficient community service program of all time.
That doesn't mean that we should accept the image and normalize having military soldiers, and in LA, they used active duty Marines in our streets. Furthermore, what is probably even more troubling and has gotten a lot less attention is Trump just signed this new national security memorandum that effectively labels anyone who opposes him and his views as a potential domestic terrorist.
That's true.
Now that does come.
That was NSPM 7. Did they?
Him and his memorandum that effectively labels.
That's how you know she's smart. She accurately identified it as a memorandum and not an executive order. Yeah, this is shout outs to Ken Klippenstein. That's another thing that happened while I was out. NSPM 7. Now, if you are a leftist or any sort of left conviction in politics, government has automatically decided that you are a potential domestic terrorist and will subject you to increased amounts of state scrutiny with state resources, state investigative offices, and that sort of thing. Does Absol have any moves besides okay. What kind of moves do they have? Scratch, Bite, Leer, and Quick Attack. Okay, so they've just been only using Quick Attack for some reason. Get him out of here. I want to get at least to, I think, floor 10 or so without any of my move usages running out. So I'm going to try to get my teammates to do some of the legwork here.
Anyone who opposes him and his views as a potential domestic terrorist. Now, that does come with actual federal resources that can do a lot more than just like pick up trash and sort of stand around while ICE does whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
So you're right.
I just needed to let her cook, because she said basically what I said was, you know, that's going to put meaningful scrutiny on people.
DC, in Chicago, so what we've seen so far, a lot of this is like fascist theater, but it is meant to intimidate. It is meant to send a message
thugs and
that
felons,
political opposition.
Thugs and felons. Very, again, this is something that used to work more, but doesn't, like, nowadays, because, like, you know, nobody buys it anymore. So it's just like a weak kind of interjection. Like, in fact, that's what she's describing. That, like, oh yeah, this now gives, like, some sort of legalistic or procedural justification for deeming all political opposition as criminals. And Tommy Lauren is like, yeah, you know, the political opposition are criminals. It's like, that's what I'm arguing this thing says, you know?
Will not be tolerated.
And then she just goes back to
put it together, Tommy. I genuinely want to ask you this question. Like, is there nothing that he's done that you feel like, you know, it's a little too far? Like, we've had the tariffs, which have been wild and unilaterally imposed. We've got Palantir getting contracts to surveil anyone and everyone they want to. We have people being sent to a foreign gulag with zero due process. We have National Guard being deployed in...
I love evil things. This is why you can't debate conservatives, because it's like, yeah, the administration doesn't fucking care about due process. They're deporting American, like, legal residents and citizens and whatever. And she's like, yeah, I love it. Damn, bitch, you just like suffering. Fuck you. This is, again, if you have a conversation in real life with a conservative, if they're a family member, this is the point at which you disown them, or if not, this is the point where you, like, hit them with a rock as hard as you can or something. In Minecraft. Not in real life. Don't actually do that. But you know what I mean. It's like a complete... just like, yeah, I am gleefully evil. That's what this is. Unironically, the only time Hillary Clinton cooked was when she made that point that conservatives are just gleefully evil.
City after city after city. You have American citizens. I mean,
city after city after city.
If you saw this video.
Which cities has he deployed now?
Funny she should ask this question. Chicago, what was it? It wasn't Memphis, right? Was it Memphis? It was one of the bigger cities in Tennessee, and then Portland now, I think.
National Guard too, besides protecting
LA,
federal...
DC, Memphis,
okay, and
Portland.
LA.
We invited
Okay,
him.
yeah, it was
We invited
Memphis.
him.
LA, DC, Memphis, Chicago, Portland, city after city after city.
Tennessee. We invited him to Tennessee. Governor invited him to come clean up the streets of Memphis because they desperately need the help. So this is, I'm genuinely curious. And
Doesn't matter if the governor invites the National Guard. Again, this, like, she's intentionally missing the point. Is that, like, the military occupying a domestic region is pretty authoritarian just on its own, regardless of whether, like, oh great, the state government invited them. I wonder what the people of that state had to do with that decision, huh? Probably fuck all, you know? So the mini president invited the bigger president to send the military to occupy their region? Damn, that's crazy. Tell me more about how that's, like, not authoritarian or something?
But Tommy, let me, like, can you respond to the question though? None of this you feel like,
none
you
of
know,
this,
this is a little too far.
no.
Saying policing comedians' monologues, right?
He's not
using lawsuits to threaten media,
It-
consolidating media in the hands of his allies.
I know that you're not trying to allege that Jimmy Kimmel or Colbert were taken off the air because of President Trump.
Yeah, in part they were. It was mostly, like, I don't think Trump himself, like, ordered. Trump himself didn't, like, say, I want Kimmel off the air or something. I don't remember exactly how it went down with Colbert, but yeah, it has a lot to do with Trump because, what was it, ABC? And whatever's the company that does Colbert wanted a favorable relationship with the Trump administration, so they self-censored. They went out of their way to be like, oh, here, let's remove this like political opposition commentator from the airwaves in the hopes of gaining favor with Trump, which theoretically that would do because they are, political opposition. People that Trump doesn't like. It didn't end up working out, but ultimately, the soft power of the Trump administration and the hard power as well, but like the soft power was felt not just through like any abstraction, but the very real fact that like the administration has the power to like deny the mergers or whatever that they were looking at. So, but again, that's way more complicated of an explanation that like you would ever get through to a bitch like Tommy Lauren. We got your W dumb bitches, your L dumb bitches. This is one of the latter. Yeah, I don't know. Probably she's gonna mention just how like the FCC chair literally commented about how like Jimmy Kimmel should be taken off the air, and then it just kind of happened.
They obviously were. I mean, Kimmel in particular, Colbert, you could make another argument about. But the FCC commissioner came out and said we could do this the easy way or the hard way. And next thing you know, Disney pulls the plug. Why? Because
why
they
did they
know that this
reinstate him then?
president weaponizes the federal government
Why was he
against his
reinstated?
adversaries. They're worried about their business deals because the backlash was so severe. Look, these people don't care about anything about their bottom line. I hope you agree with that. And they saw more than 1.7 million Disney customers cancel their Disney Plus subscriptions. So they were like, oh, we've got an even bigger problem here. But there is zero doubt that the intention is to chill speech, to make anyone who opposes this president think twice before they do that. That's what the university crackdowns are about. That's what the legal crackdowns are about. That's what kidnapping students off the street for writing an op-ed, that's what that's about. That's what the National Guard in the street is about. And that's what him saying to these generals today, we have to use the military against the enemy within. So you may not like the term fascist. You may not like it when it's thrown around by Democrats. You had no problem with it when it was thrown around by Trump, by the way. But that is, in fact, the accurate description of what we're seeing here. And so I have no problem with people trying to accurately describe the situation that they're experiencing in their own country.
Do you think that, I have so many questions for you, that whole thing like democracy under attack, dictator on day one, that worked so well for you guys in November of last
This is not a refutation of anything that Crystal just said. She's just, what she's doing here, God, these people are such fucking morons. She's like, yeah, well, we won now, so we have power, and I'm gonna say, like, we can use that power against you now. Yeah, no shit. That's kind of what they're exactly talking about here.
last year. I'm actually shocked that you're still using it and you think that it's working on the American people.
Also, the assumption that like the absolute projection, this is interesting, that like everybody is just as vacuous of belief as her, you know? Because it seems like she's kind of given up at this. Well, she might not have given up completely, because there's more to the video. I actually don't even know if I'm gonna watch the full thing. I might come back to it even. That she's now going to, oh yeah, well that strategy didn't work out for you guys, and yet you're still, you know, talking about it. Well, it's not a political strategy per se. It's a belief that you have. Legitimately, like, in this respect, Tommy Lauren is more similar to the Democrats than myself or Crystal, because she only thinks about this in terms of like, no, of course we don't actually believe anything. We'll just say whatever's convenient to the moment, you know? And I do mean convenient rather than relevant, you know? Like your beliefs will change on a dime.
It didn't, and
Tommy,
it's not.
not everything is about a poll, right? Not some things are about like
Shit, alright, there I go again. I just need to let Crystal talk. Go off, queen. Spit your shit.
You actually have a principle and you actually care
Keep
about
doing
protecting
it.
First
No,
Amendment.
keep
I
doing
mean,
it.
to me,
If
this is
you
like
guys think that, though, that's
Tommy,
fine.
this is, to me,
Crystal,
one of the best things about America. Is
Yeah, I do
my
too.
ability and your ability to say what we think. You know, and I know you've been critical at times of Trump. I'm sure you'd like to preserve the ability to be so. I'm sure you'd like,
of course,
if there's
and
a
I don't
future
think that I
Gavin
have any
Newsom
danger
or
of losing my
AOC
ability to do
administration.
it. Yeah, I don't
Okay,
think that.
but do you worry? Do you
No.
worry about the turnabout, though?
No,
do you
I don't.
worry that when it's an AOC or a Gavin
Crystal-
Newsom?
Okay. This rhetorical line obviously is, like, watertight or whatever, because, like, it's obviously like, well, yeah, but, like, if you support this power now, obviously it's like you would be unprincipled if this power was, like, used against you in the future. The problem is, number one, Tommy Lauren doesn't care, and number two, I think she recognizes there's no real credible threat of the Democrats really doing anything. Unfortunately. You know, if I had my way, Democrats would be doing fucking Reconstruction too. They'd be all up in the Fox News offices. They'd be suing the shit out of every conservative news network. All right, you guys actually have to adhere to a set of facts that is commonly agreed upon, and there have to actually be journalistic standards again. You can't just, like, constantly air shit that is demonstrably false all the time, you know? But the Democrats would never do that, because that would require a spine. And in that respect, they are, in fact, just like Tommy Lauren. I've kind of alternated back and forth between Tommy and Tommy. I don't know which one is correct. I think it's Tommy.
That you're going to be the one put it on the domestic terror watch list,
Crystal.
because that's what's happening right now.
Crystal. So, if you did a little bit more research, you would know that your guy, AutoPen, actually did pressure social media companies to deplatform me, to move me
And
down
Tommy,
in the
if you-
algorithm.
Wait, I got deplatformed for COVID misinformation. No, bitch. Well, yes, bitch, actually. But that wasn't the government. That was, the platform itself. You violated the terms of service that you had to sign in order to use the website. Sorry. This is basically, it would be kind of like, in more short form, it would be like you said the N-word and then got banned from YouTube and complained that the government banned you from YouTube. No, bitch, you got banned by YouTube for engaging in shit that violates terms of service. In this case, got deplatformed from, I think she's referring to Twitter, for peddling COVID disinfo. Because that was against terms of service. Tough shit. You know? Hey, just like she argued that the president is within their rights to send the National Guard somewhere, a social media company is also within their rights to ban a user for behavior that runs against terms of service. And in this case, that is infinitely more defensible than whatever the fuck the Trump administration was thinking about, you know, like sending the National Guard places. Like, you got banned, it wasn't the government, and that's for the better, actually. Get fucked.
If
Reduce
you did
me.
a little bit of research, you would know that I complained and protested against those sorts of actions. I have been consistent in saying, we should not have a Ministry of Truth.
This is an actual
Government
example.
should not be involved. Hold on. Government should not be involved in pressuring social media companies to cancel. What the Biden administration did, as revealed in the Twitter files and the Hunter Biden laptop suppression, I spoke out against all of that.
I'm
So
glad
you
that
can't
you
get me
did.
on that crap.
Well, I'm glad that you did.
That is nothing compared to the way that this administration.
I would even, like, I even differ from Crystal in this respect, because I'm glad that, like, you know, I'm glad that there was just any effort at all to combat misinformation during a fucking pandemic, when that misinformation was directly getting more people killed by disease than already were dying, you know? Legitimately, it was like the one use case where such an entity to basically monitor disinformation was like warranted. And to my knowledge, they just said, like, hey, Twitter, this kind of misinformation is making the pandemic worse, and it's, like, inhibiting our recovery efforts or something like that. It was like, compared to the kind of shit that the Trump administration doing and what companies are now doing to self-censor, I think it was like pretty light-handed in comparison. I could be wrong though. It was like, this would have been 4 years ago now, 4-ish, 3 or 4, something like that.
Has used the whole of government, weaponized the whole of government in order to try to silence and coerce their critics. There is no doubt about it. The FCC commissioner coming out and directly saying, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. That is overt jawboning. That is overt threats to media companies. Then you have the lawsuits that are used to basically extract a bribe to coerce these media organizations. And then you have mass consolidation in the hands of Trump political allies. That's what's going on. So the First Amendment is under attack in a way we have never seen before, going back even to the days of George W. Bush and the Patriot Act and that surveillance,
Crystal,
which I also objected to, by the way.
Crystal, it's interesting to me that when I show you all of the...
I'm guessing she's going to be like, all of the one time that the Biden administration did something that was like pretty controversial to stop a pandemic from getting worse. And then Crystal's like, here's a fucking dozen, like actually a dozen things that the Trump administration has engaged in that has demonstrably deteriorated free speech rights in this country. And also, I oppose that thing from the Biden administration. Tommy Lauren's still going to be like, curious, you claim to oppose this, and yet your guy did whatever.
Censorship from the Biden administration, which I'm glad that you disagreed with. But when I show you like concrete examples of they did this, they did that, Hunter Biden laptop impacted an election, right? All the COVID misinformation.
When I show you all these concrete examples, such as this thing that I alluded to one time and provided no substantiation for. Perfect, no notes. Absolutely perfect depiction of conservatism.
Information you couldn't, they pressured YouTube, Google, every single one of them was pressured, and these companies are coming out and saying we are pressured to deplatform people, to lock people out of the accounts, delete accounts, reduce people on these platforms during COVID, calling it misinformation, disinformation. We have concrete examples of this, but then you say, well, you know, because they deceptively edited that Kamala interview, and because Colbert lost his show because he lost money, and because Kimmel was off the air for 5 days. That's your example of like the government's cracking down on free speech.
The fuck is she talking about? Legitimately, what is... I mean, they just talked about Kimmel and Colbert, but like what? Great. Good.
When I have an actual example
actually
of they actually silence people. Here it is. Citizens, content creators, influencers, politicians, doesn't matter. They did all...
Damn, that's crazy because Crystal provided examples of all that shit, and then you just like decided that's actually, I said all those things about individuals that I have not named once or some shit like that. I recognize that it's possible that she like brought this up in the beginning section, but that's fucking 3 minutes of her yapping about like hating Democrats, and so I've like, never mind the fact that there's not even enough time for her to talk in any sort of detail about that. I don't believe her.
All these things, and you're like, but Colbert and Kimmel, you know, you see why it's hard for me to believe you when you're like, the First Amendment is now under attack.
It's hard for me when you spoke out against those things under the Biden administration and you have nothing to say about what's happening with the Trump administration. Look at the way they are trying to designate speech as...
Actually, that's not entirely true. She doesn't have nothing to say about the Trump administration decimating free speech. She likes the fact that the Trump administration is decimating free speech and just doesn't want you to you know, call her on it. She doesn't want to be socially penalized in any way for being a fascist who hates you and life and doesn't believe in anything. Effectively, she's cry-bullying. She's a whiny bitch baby. Just like all the rest of them. You know, birds of a feather, something, something. Please stop throwing the... Great. not earning very much experience because Mudkip is exclusively throwing Iron Thorns. Okay, now they're using moves and such. Beef TM. Okay, I'm gonna use Razor Leaf here. Or not? Great, thank you, game. Okay. Help me out here. Or don't, that's cool too. Oh no, wait, that Mudkip used a move, so that applies there. So I get full experience. Yay. Ah, thank you, Mudkip.
Material support.
I think I'll maybe try to watch to the end of the Antifa violence and labels section. You can see this right here. It ends at about 20 minutes. And then I'll be done with stream.
For terrorism.
You know?
Pam Bondi coming out and saying the exact woke thing that I'm sure you objected to in the past.
And I did disagree with that when Pam Bondi came out and said, yeah, I disagree.
When Trump came out and said the exact same thing and said, you're not allowed to criticize me.
No, he did not say that.
Speech.
He never said
yes,
that.
He
said, we're
literally
cracking down
did.
on
He did say that. I saw the video clip. It was actually like really funny and like the most unintentionally revealing thing I think I had ever seen. Like, oh wow, that's crazy that they feel comfortable like admitting that or whatever, you know?
Antifa and domestic terrorists. Do you not?
You can look it up.
I guess I would ask you this: do you not think that Antifa and their tactics, which I've seen firsthand, do you not think Antifa and the things that they pull, particularly in places like Seattle and Portland, do you not see that as domestic?
Bro, they are still on about that. That was 5 fucking years ago. Oh no, there was like, I don't know, a kind of crazy block party where left-wing protesters were. Okay? Jesus. Like, a little bit of property damage happens in a large-scale national protest movement one time in one city, and conservatives can't shut the fuck up about it for half a decade or more. Meanwhile, the right-wing president can literally say, you can't criticize me, you can't say mean things, because that's mean, and sorry, that's not protected by the First Amendment. And like they'll be like, no, he didn't say that actually. Fucking pigeon on a chessboard ass looking ass. You know what I mean?
Terrorism.
I think crime is crime and should be dealt with as such. But in the same way that I objected to the mass surveillance of the Bush administration and the expansion of the terror state apparatus that has occurred ever since then, I vociferously object to this attempt to use Palantir to surveil everything that all of us say for wrongthink. God forbid that we criticize.
I can't. It looks like I was literally just about to say, I can't wait for her to fucking defend Palantir. Like, holy shit. Oh, I should use sleep powder some. That would be good. I guess I'll just eat this since Can't really justify throwing away anything particularly.
Criticize Israel. God forbid that we criticize what ICE is doing. That's the regime that they're putting into place, Tommy. I mean, that's what they are trying to effectuate right now.
Well, I disagree with you on that point, but I don't agree with
they were the lowest hanging.
I don't agree with you. Wait, so then you do agree? So her defense is like, no, that's not happening or something. Like, Palantir isn't real, silly.
Yeah, they were the lowest hanging fruit, and now it's coming for American citizens who also, by the way, are being caught up in these immigration raids as well. So this isn't just staying with, the people you might be more comfortable with. This has huge impacts on all of us, and especially as people who make our living through our...
Yeah, but she doesn't care, because as long as the people she doesn't like get caught in it, it's like, it's fine.
Our ability to speak and to say at times provocative things, like that's part of the job, and that's exactly what this administration is really trying to go after.
Crystal,
and
I'm
make sure not that nobody won't be able to say anything, but that they have to think twice. I mean, you mentioned Google and YouTube, and then I'll shut up and let you say the next thing, but they just had to do some, multi-million-dollar settlement and basically pay tribute to the Trump administration because they want to make sure their deals can go through and they get their tax breaks or whatever it is that they want. That's what all of these companies are doing, and we are totally dependent on these big companies.
You are saying that.
Damn, that's crazy. You say that companies are only looking out for their bottom line. Yeah, sure, bitch. Let me point you exactly to the part in the law where it says that that's what companies do. People might not know this. Companies such as ABC, such as CBS, such as Netflix, Palantir, whatever it is, are legally obligated to prioritize their bottom line when they are acting in self-interest in very destructive ways that harm the rest of the country but pad their bottom line. The law tells them to do that. That is what the law says about companies in America, in plenty of countries, actually. That's kind of part and parcel to capitalism, where you have companies and stuff like that. You get in trouble when you're not engaging in your fiduciary responsibility to, it's either like the shareholders or the owners or whatever. You say this, yeah, sure. Fucking, do you want me to bring up the, US code that says that? That's how this works. That's how this has always worked for as long as there have been, companies to be governed by that part of the US code. That's more of an explanation than I even need to provide, because these people transparently don't believe jack shit.
Companies actually came out and said, Biden administration pressured us to remove this, this, and that. But you are just assigning that to these companies because you believe
that was reported within Disney. No, that's not true. That was reported about the deliberations with regard to Jimmy Kimmel.
So why
they
is
didn't
he back
actually have a problem with what he said.
Because all these Americans now, his ratings are back in the tank.
Because 1.7 million.
Yeah, now the ratings are back in the tank.
People canceled Disney Plus.
Yeah, the reason that Disney canceled Jimmy Kimmel was because they're trying to look out for their bottom line. That merger, or between, I think it was ABC and some other company, would be really good for the bottom line of ABC and Disney. When they realized that they fucked up and they lost a shit ton of subscriptions, that was bad for their bottom line. So they made a decision to try to reverse that effect. Both times, they're just acting to try to pad their bottom line, to get revenue, to get money. That's what companies do. But because Tommy Lauren, hates you and hates liberalism and hates anybody that believes in anything, not in the cool based way of hating liberalism either. She hates the good parts of liberalism. She has to pretend that you're lying about fucking business operations that happen every day all over the world, and that capitalism would instantly sputter and die without. I fucking hate conservatives.
Yeah, the ratings are
dude.
back in the tank.
I hate having
that great big boost. And
correction. Sometimes I love conservatives because it's entertaining as hell to be like, what? My actions have consequences. You know, it's fun to watch them be like that. But, God, I hate listening to them.
And then, boom, his audience left again. And they will. And I'm all for him being on air.
Tommy,
I think he should be. I think he should fail on his own, Crystal.
Jimmy Kimmel in ages.
No
I don't know what he has to say.
Nobody
It's fine. Obviously, these are all dinosaurs.
Jimmy Kimmel is, low ratings. Got him, liberal. Like I said, complete airhead, no engagement with the points being made
Programs that are going to
anything.
go away eventually. It's about the principle. You know, I stood up where a lot of people during the Biden years that I have no ideological agreement with whatsoever, because it's the principle of protecting free speech, protecting the First Amendment, even the right to say things that are offensive to people, that are provocative, that are outrageous.
And
so if you have a government that is trying to weaponize all of their agencies to try to chill speech
that's where you
and
lose
coerce the media.
I don't think that they're doing.
I don't think they're doing that because I like what they're doing. And when I like what they're doing, that means they can't be doing a bad thing. Honestly, I might even just end it there because, like, I'm subjecting myself to a far-right NPC dialogue tree. What do they even talk about? Crime, cities, public safety. We've already heard everything they could possibly be talking about here. Fairness in the military. They already talked about the military. I can expect her to say, yeah, get the transes out of the military, something. They're all mentally ill. Also, the military should serve the president because he's awesome and the president, and that's the way it should be, or something. Arrest of, I'm guessing there was like a public official that was undocumented or that the right alleges was undocumented. They're gonna be like, yeah, arresting people with the Department of Immigration Customs Enforcement is good, actually. And then they talk about Zohran Mamdani in New York City. Zohran hates America, blah, blah, blah. No, actually rent freezes with accompanied by like affordable housing projects is good. There's data to show that. No, okay, I've basically summed up how the entire rest of the video is gonna go. I really don't feel like watching that, so I'm gonna finish the last fucking 54 seconds of this, and then I'm done.
Doing that. Now, I believe in free speech. I don't believe that Kimmel or Colbert were taken off the air because of President.
Say that again?
I believe in free speech. I don't believe that Kimmel.
Oh, okay. For a second, I thought she said, I don't believe in free speech. And I was going to be like, you know?
Or Colbert were taken off the air because of President Trump. I don't believe you on that. But you're talking about speech, and I agree with you on speech, all right? Mm-hmm. I believe you should be able to say provocative things. I think that there is a limit when it comes.
You should be able to say racist things, but you shouldn't be able to say anti-racist things, is the position of Tommy Lauren.
To credible threats. But outside of that, I'm more talking about, you mentioned the National Guard and the troops, and I asked you about Antifa. I'm talking about actions now. I'm not talking about words. I'm talking about actions. When Antifa goes out on the street and they light things on fire, or they're firebombing and
thing that happened maybe once, like, oh, Antifa went, no, it was one dude, probably, like, I think a storefront, like, or something, some minor bit of property was lit on fire one time in the 2020 protests, where protests were erupting in every major city in America, and the right wing has not shut the fuck up about it in 5 years. I am begging conservatives to be normal human beings that understand that, like, yeah, when you have a really big protest movement, sometimes bad things happen. But again, it's just like, they just don't agree with the objective of the protest movement, so they want to be like, see, they're violent and destructive. You can tell because in the course of millions of people mobilizing to protest over the course of, like, I don't know, a year and a half, one violent incident occurred that we can refer to. Pay no mind to January 6th, which was based in Red Pill, but also done by Antifa feds. Or, you know, the numerous assassination attempts that have been carried out by right-wingers against other right-wingers, or the fact that a right-winger somehow acquired police gear, actual honest-to-God police gear, and assassinated state-level Democratic lawmakers. Yeah, don't worry about all of that. Somebody lit a storefront on fire one time during the biggest protests, some of the biggest protests that America has ever seen. So that means that you're violent, actually, and we're justified in killing our political opposition. Need I remind you also that this was not the flurry of political assassinations in 2024 and 5 were not the first time that we've seen this either. I remember doing a video way back in the day where a Texas Republican legitimately hired a hitman to kill his political opponent. He lost that race, but he hired a hitman. He hired a hitman to kill a Democratic politician at the local level. Nothing. Nobody talked about it. And then the right wing joked about fucking Paul Pelosi getting attacked. These people hate you. And they don't believe in anything except you dying. And they will kill themselves to see that happen.
Nice facility. Things of that nature. Do you not think that the National Guard might be helpful in deterring some of that violence? Not just to protect the federal agents.
What violence?
But also the federal buildings, and I don't know, maybe make the
fuck federal agents. That is my position on this. I mean that in multiple senses of the word. Feds, hit me up in the DMs.
Area a little bit safer for the businesses and others that are operating in that vicinity to be able to carry about their daily business without being antagonized by freaks who consider themselves to be Antifa warriors.
First of all, let's talk a little.
By the way, the right wing is the only faction that has ever used the term Antifa warriors. Antifa is it's the last point that I'll leave on is very characteristic of the right wing to engage with Antifa as though it's some sort of military, like paramilitary organization that has a command structure and gives orders from the top down, because that's all they're capable of understanding. But Antifa, more so than anything, is like a movement, like a very highly decentralized movement of people who have like a belief in common that fascism is bad. And the reason it's highly decentralized is because it's made up of fucking anarchists. Like me. Kind of. Like, it's not some Soviet Order of the Red Banner shit, whatever, like, Police Red Guard Corps, whatever the fuck they had over there. It's a bunch of people who go to protests and show up and, like, I don't know, lock arms when ICE tries to, like, arrest somebody. Anyway, I'm done with this. That's all I can stomach of conservative. But by the way, titan of conservative thought, by the way. This legitimately, like, this is some of the best that conservatism has to offer the political discussion. That is what passes for intellectual, like, engagement in the world of conservative ideology. Anyway, Crystal Ball is great. She did great. That was so painful that I couldn't watch the rest of it because Tommy Lauren is so dumb. It makes my head hurt, makes my stomach hurt. I'm also, like, hungry, so. And this game is more important than listening to anything that Tommy Lauren has to say. I keep doing that. Tommy, whatever the fuck. Well, her name's not important enough. She doesn't mean enough to me. Sorry, you're not like that. For me to, like, worry about getting her name right. I'm just gonna alternate back and forth forever. Fuck it. Somebody use mud support. Okay. Golem's probably following. Yeah. Makes sense. Probably afford to spend a Razor Leaf here. I might make that into a segment. What? Oh. What? Why? Wait, why does... why does the game do that? Where it's like, oh, it has 0 PP, they try to use it anyway, and it takes up their turn to try to use it. Just use a different move. I think future games fix that, actually. Yep. Shoutouts to the YouTube homies if that becomes a video. Anyway, again to reiterate the purpose of that. The purpose was to engage in the collective humiliation ritual of Tommy Lauren, and not necessarily to learn anything from it, because there's nothing to learn from conservatives except for the mass psychology of conservatives and alternatively the median voter. In parentheses, derogatory. Anyways, it's good to be back. Cut it there, future me. I guess I'm gonna have to go on for a little while longer because this dungeon is pretty long. I actually wonder if I'm gonna have to fight Groudon at the end of this. I'm hoping not. I'm kind of hoping not, but it's a possibility in my mind. I guess that's why I have sleep powder and a few reviver seeds. Get out of here. My regular attacks are actually doing a fair amount of damage. Neither of us can hit an attack. No, what? Lame. Absol. I wish you wouldn't have used all of your uses of quick attack instantly. Silly. Who has move usages left? You have move usages left. Why don't I just hit one of these and then sub you in? Go for it. Oh. You got it. I believe in you. Thank you. I'm kind of glad to realize that I might be a touch over-prepared for this dungeon. You know, like it seems like I'm dispatching with most of the Pokemon here pretty easily. I'm sure she's gaining plenty of experience points from it too. So that's nice. Let's go back to the stairs. Do I have another max elixir? I do. Okay, so I could probably... I think starting on the 20th floor, I can afford to be a little bit more open with, like, using my moves and stuff. I'll draw that cutoff line. I'm going to try to do basically this until I hit floor 20. Nice. Thank you, Mudkip. You know what's funny? I realized in playing Rescue Team DX, my team is the same. Where Bulbasaur is my character and my partner is Mudkip. I didn't even do that on purpose. That was completely by accident. How many experience points do I have? About 3,000 to the next level? Okay. That's not bad. You know. Apple. I will eat a gummy. It's not up there. I'm gonna go down here. Absol, help me out. No, don't try to use quick attack, you dummy. Oh. I keep forgetting also that I can hold B to run, and it doesn't affect the rate at which my hunger bar goes down. Okay, 20th floor. Let's start using those moves. Get out of here. Razor Leaf? Oh, come on. Okay, switch with you. Thank you. Can this cut corners? Oh, in front. No, it cannot cut corners. In the later Mystery Dungeon games, they made a lot more moves into corner cutting and ranged attacks. Just eat that, sure. Oh, hell no, Bulbasaur's eating food off the ground? That's crazy. Let's go this way. Okay, that makes exploring the floor a lot faster. Absol, stop trying to use quick attack, please. I'm gonna use Razor Leaf this time. Yeah. Oh boy, okay. This is a big old party. Alright. Yay! Sword Stance. Lower the opponent's defense, which you can all benefit from, or raise your attack by more. But only you can benefit from it. You know, if it were Helping Hand, I'd probably take it. I'm actually going to stay with Leer, I think. Also, that IQ skill that I have talked about other times, Gap Prober, that allows you to do long range moves that aren't quick attack through your teammates. That's just a default thing that everybody has in some of the later Mystery Dungeon games. Absol, your time to shine. Don't use quick attack. Thank you. No. Well, it's okay, because they're out of there. Get out of here. $421. Oh, I'm gonna go for you first. Figures. Okay. Yay! Level 31. And now I have 1 usage left for all 3 of my attacking moves. So I'll do this. I could do that, but I like doing the grindy thing. Okay. Okay. Don't use quick attack. Okay. Use scratch. That's good. What's up here? Another room? No items. Unfortunate. Go to sleep. Yay. Oh. Go to sleep. Nice. Ow. Thank you, Mudkip. Okay, sleep powder again. I might actually try to get all my moves down to 0 before I use a max elixir. Okay, well, here's one of them down to 0. Here's another one of them down to 0. No, wait. Swap with this. Give me that. Thank you. Oh wow, Onyx has really high defense in this game. Get him out of here. Now, I actually need to use this max elixir. Nice. Go down here and... Okay. There's an item in Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX that I'm quite fond of, that I use quite a bit. I don't know if it exists in this game. It's called the Tight Belt. And its function is basically just it prevents your hunger from depleting. Dang it, I didn't need to step 1 extra. Stop trying to use quick attack. But that's really handy in larger dungeons. Well, and small dungeons, too. Sometimes you don't find food that often. He's not out of scratch. He's just refusing to use any of his moves. What's going on, Absol? Why? Why? So I think it's this floor and then the halfway, quote-unquote, halfway point, which only has like 1 floor after it. I thought I was facing down! It's fine. Fine with... It's over here. And Onyx is over here. Onyx is also over here. Can you imagine here? How is my team looking? 12,000, 2,000, and 11,000. Okay. Angle's about to level up again. Relatively soon. Not like immediately, but getting close. I'm actually just going to eat one of these to clear up a little bit of inventory space. I have more than enough food, I think. There we go, finally. Save point. So I'm going to save here. And then I'll save the state. And then I will find somebody to raid. Sparkling Image Car Wash. Thank you for the follow. I forgot to say that. Thank you very much. 7 days ago. Jeez, man. It's been too long. Alright, well, we've done the torture ritual of watching the streamer suffer, and the humiliation ritual of looking at conservatives get dogged. So I think this was a good stream. I kind of let my voice training fall off a little bit, I think. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just hearing it a little bit differently. Yeah, let me find somebody to raid. Oh, perfect. I was actually just about to say, I hope Aoife is live. I don't know why I was about to say that. But yay, Spooky Movie Sunday, Shin Godzilla, and... Alright, well, enjoy Shin Godzilla and whatever else Aoife is watching. I'll see y'all later. Hopefully soon. I can promise, if nothing else, I can promise it won't be 2 weeks again.